The Bleak Cabal, also called the Bleakers, the Cabal, Madmen, or those who find no sense in the multiverse. The multiverse doesn't make sense, and it ain't supposed to. They don't believe the multiverse is without meaning, because that answer is a meaning in itself. The primes, the petitioners, the planars, even the powers don't have the answer. Nothing has a higher purpose. Things just are, and whatever meaning there is in the multiverse is what each being imagines into the void. A body's gotta find meaning within himself, but such meaning can't come without first experiencing the intrinsic folly of the rest of the multiverse. They embrace the madness of the world around them, because they believe it moves them along on the path towards self-awareness. People call the Cabal mad, but they're the ones that are truly mad, trying to find meaning when there is none. Once you understand that it all means nothing, everything starts to make sense. Of course, some folks can't handle the truth, and some are unable to find the meaning within themselves. Those ones go mad. For one to join the Cabal, they have to do three things: quit looking for meanings, accept what happens, and look inward. There's no meaning on the outside, so the question is there meaning on the inside? Their primary plane of influence is Pandemonium. This plane owes its existence to no one and no thing. It rages with the screaming winds of madness, which suits the Bleak Cabal well. For a faction with such a bleak outlook on life, they're the most charitable in Sigil. They run an almshouse for the sick and insane. It might not be the most pleasant place, given their strange methods of treatment, but at least you can get a hot meal and a bed from them. They also have soup kitchens set up throughout the city. Allies and enemies. The Bleak Cabal is viewed neutrally by few factions. The Doomguard, Dustman, Revolutionary League, and the Chaositechs are all sympathetic to their viewpoint. The Fraternity of Order, Harmonium, and Mercy Killers all disagree with their nihilistic viewpoint and are enemies. Eligibility. The Bleak Cabal is open to all races, classes, and alignments except lawful. Lawful characters cannot accept the Cabal's basic premise, that life exists without meaning, for without meaning, there is no order. Intelligent characters, wizards, priests, bards, and other classes with scholarly inclinations, are naturally attracted to the Cabal with its emphasis on mental over physical. Thieves and fighters typically join later in life, after the burden of life takes a toll and sends them over the edge. A warrior might see too much killing, or a highwayman who spends too many years on the run. All bleaker fighters and thieves of 10th level or higher must turn 50% of all treasure gained to a local charity, usually the bleaker ran soup kitchens. By trying to soothe their consciences, they receive some measure of relief from despair. They gain 1 charisma for every 2 levels they rise, regardless of racial limitations, to a maximum charisma of 25. An aura of beneficence surrounds these characters, even if their physical appearances are displeasing. They're looked on with great favor and often considered genuine heroes by folks in Sigil. When a Bleaker's charisma score reaches 25, he's automatically granted the best possible outcome in any meeting with those of opposing viewpoints. Benefits. Considered mad by most, members of the Bleak Cabal are immune to spells causing madness or insanity, including Chaos, Confusion, Delude, Feeble Mind, Otto's Irresistible Dance, and Tasha's Uncontrollable Hideous Laughter. How can you strike an already mad man with madness? Furthermore, they are allowed to make a saving throw versus spell against ESP spells directed at them. They are also immune to certain psionic abilities, including Ego Whip, Psychic Crush, and Psychic Surgery. At 7th level, they gain the power to absorb artificially induced madness in others. To use this, they must meditate for 1 hour, cleansing his mind of all thoughts, which is a very hard thing to do, and they have a 15% chance of failure, and they can only attempt this twice for the same victim. Then they begin a ritualistic massage of the victim's head. The massage lasts until the victim is numb, 1d12 plus 4 hours, and then their madness is absorbed by the Bleaker. The madman will suffer mental anguish for 2 days after, while he sorts out the absorbed insanity. This only works on insanity induced by magic items and spells, but not people who have gone insane naturally. Bleaker spellcasters also get access to 2 spells unique to faction members. Despair, a 4th level wizard spell that allows the Bleaker to share his worldview with others, sending 2d4 creatures into a lapse of severe depression. While in despair, a creature can't move, attack, cast spells, or engage in basic activities such as eating or drinking. It lasts 1 round per level of the caster. If the victim is bound or damaged, they may repeat the saving throw, and members of the Free League are somewhat resistant to this spell because they are not stuck on any particular philosophy, gaining a +2 bonus to their saving throw. The other spell they get is Howl of Pandemonium, a 6th level wizard spell. It allows a Bleaker to channel the screaming winds of pandemonium through his own body, giving voice to a numbing wail that incapacitates all nearby. It requires a pebble from pandemonium, which is consumed by the casting, and it affects either everyone within 30 feet or everyone in a 60-foot cone. It must be maintained for at least 1 round and last as long as the wizard concentrates. Then when their concentration ends, it lingers for the same number of rounds the wizard concentrated for. All creatures in the AoE are deafened and disoriented. Communication of any kind is impossible, and they suffer a -2 penalty to saving throws and attack rolls. Non-magical missiles are deflected by the force of the Howl. Anyone trying to physically approach the caster must successfully save versus spell before doing so, and all sound-based attacks are negated, being drowned out by the Howl. Creatures whose hit dice or levels are lower than the caster's must save versus spell or become confused. Creatures or petitioners native to Pandemonium are immune to the spell. Restrictions. Bleakers are subject to fits of deep melancholia as they reflect on the pointlessness of life. At the start of each game day, the player rolls 1d20. On a roll of a 20, the character is overcome by the futility of his or her own beliefs. They won't do anything unless philosophically convinced by another that it's worthwhile. Note that a monster eating another party member is not sufficient justification. To the Bleaker, the poor sod's life or death is pointless anyway. If they fail this roll 3 days in a row, or 5 days within a single month, they may be considered for incarceration in the Mad Bleaker wing of the Gatehouse. If they opt to not go, they suffer the possibility of extended madness. The very next time their daily 1d20 roll results in either a 20 or a 1, the Bleaker immediately goes insane and will remain in that condition until he's taken to the Gatehouse for treatment. Now, they're only overcome by futility if they roll a 20 on this 1d20. However, if they roll a 1, they enter a state of manic euphoria. They are overcome with flights of fancy and free association, and they're likely to believe that they're some sort of messiah. Fortunately, this only lasts for 1 day. All Bleakers have a shortened lifespan, as years of living with madness and melancholia eventually take their toll. Humans and tieflings subtract 10 years off their expected lifespans. Halflings lose 20, gnomes and half-elves lose 50, full-blooded elves lose between 1 to 200, and gray elves lose 400. Oddly, dwarves and barriers suffer no loss of life. The madmen don't see this as a curse, but a blessing. Who'd want to live long in a multiverse that didn't make sense? The Factol of the Bleak Cabal is Factol Lar, a male, chaotic neutral, half-orc planar, and 8th level fighter. In 5th edition, he's chaotic good and a full-blooded orc. He hates magic items, believing them to warp the user, and so refuses to wear or carry any. He was born in the hive of Sigil, to a blind human father and an orc mother. His mother came to Sigil looking for acceptance, since being an orc made her an outcast on the prime material plane. They barely made any money, and so when his mother got pregnant again, they couldn't care for a newborn and an adolescent, so they gave Lar to the orphanage at the Gatehouse when he was 12. He never saw his parents again, even after searching. As Factol, he is focused on spreading the Cabal's charitable influence, opening more soup kitchens throughout the hive, although some are skeptical of his charity and believe he has sinister motives. During the faction war, he succumbs to the Grim Retreat, admitting himself to the Mad Bleaker wing of the Gatehouse, and appoints the human wizard Sroos as Factol. The Grim Retreat is what they call an illness that only affects members of the Bleak Cabal. See, factions rise and fall in influence within Sigil, and when these shifts happen, many people would abandon the faction that was falling off and seek freedom in the nihilistic approach offered by the Cabal. So, every few hundred years, the Bleak Cabal would become the most powerful faction in the cage. Most of these new members that would pour in would not yet have found peace and acceptance with the concept that nothing means anything, and it was very stressful for the high-ups to deal with this large influx of hopeless people. Many of them went insane trying to deal with the pressure, and that is the Grim Retreat. Anyways, under Sroos's rule, she kicks off a more aggressive campaign to feed the poor and clean up the hive. She discourages wallowing in melancholia and wants faction members to act to create personal meaning. She ends up getting mazed by the Lady of Pain and is never mentioned again. In 5th edition, Lar is back to being Factol. No explanation is given as to how, but I assume he recovered from the Grim Retreat. That still doesn't explain how he's alive over a century later though. Hierarchy. The Bleak Cabal never actively tries to recruit members, instead growing solely via word of mouth. If someone tries to apply, the Bleaker will not explain what to do. They're on their own. If the applicant tries to tag along with the Bleaker he's attached himself to, they will ignore him and maybe even try to talk him out of joining. Most people will give up after such disinterest, but those whose hearts are truly bleak, whose will is such that they persevere, eventually get accepted into the faction as namers. This initiation period usually lasts 6 months to a year. Namers must give up their last name or family name. It's a sign of their willingness to give up a life of past meaning. Headquarters. The worst ward of the city, where the slums reside and a life is cheaper than a cutter's next meal, is the Hive Ward. The most desperate and wretched part of the Hive Ward is the Gatehouse, the headquarters of the Bleak Cabal. The Gatehouse is an asylum where the Bleakers minister to the mad and the lost. The world is merciless, and that is why mercy is most needed, why the Bleak Cabal tends to the hungry and the homeless, the orphans and the mad. They figure that by doing good works, they'll come closer to finding the true meaning that lies within. The Gatehouse lies at the end of a curving, elevated road called the Bedlam Run. The building originally housed the Contagious and was called the Bedlam Blight, but the Bleakers took it over 500 years ago and renamed it. It's common folklore that it is called the Gatehouse because it sits on the edge of the mazes. I'm sure part of that is due to Rowan Darkwood arriving at the Gatehouse when he escaped the mazes, but the truth is, the mazes reside everywhere. Sitting at the top of this hill is the Gatehouse. In 2nd edition, it is a semicircular, roofless central tower with numerous sprawling wings extending from it. In 5th edition, it is a tiered, ivory sanctuary with calming fountains that cascade down its chalk-white balconies and radiate from the central tower. This tower houses the faction's bureaucratic offices, as well as the living quarters of various high-up officials. Outside the Gatehouse in the dirty streets is always a line of the mentally ill trying to get admitted. When you live one door away from sinister realms of madness, demon ichor and souls are sold in the night market of your neighborhood, and everyone around you is attempting to make sense of the entire vast multiverse, it's very likely you'll succumb to madness at some point. They only allow 50 people in a day, and some people have to wait weeks in line. The entry to the building is a giant portcullis with bars 5 feet in diameter. It's too large to lift, but the spaces between the bars are 15 feet apart, so people can still easily get in and out. People who are let in are ushered into an open atrium, where half a dozen Bleakers are posted to direct patients to the correct wing. There are 4 wings, each overseen by a different factor. The Almshouse wing is ran by the Barrior Ezra. He regulates the number of beings who are let in each day, how long they're allowed to stay, and what work, if any, they must perform in exchange for the charity. This wing is cramped, dirty, and understaffed. Most of the Bleakers in this jurisdiction are out in Sigil operating kitchens. The criminally and irretrievably insane wing is ran by the male Grey Elf Tasali. The worst of Sigil are kept here. It is a 2-story wing that can hold 188 patients in quarters that are 5 by 15 feet. The Orphanage and Insane Asylum wing is governed by Tivold, another male Grey Elf who is the cousin of Tasali. It consists of 3 mostly open floors. The top floor is the orphanage for children 14 and under, and the other 2 are for the mentally ill who are expected to recover given enough time and treatment. Tivold doesn't really care about taking care of children, and leaves their welfare entirely in the hands of a Gitzerai named Vixek. Vixek is secretly a sensei pretending to be in the Cabal to report on them, but he isn't above abusing his position. He has a deal with the Factol of the Mercy Killers, where once a week he escorts a few able-bodied orphans to the prison to help clean certain areas, since inmate workers might escape through air ducts or sewers. The children are paid well and then let loose in the city, so they don't complain. Every now and then a child goes missing in the prison, but no one really notices. The 5-story Mad Bleaker wing is ran by the female human wizard Sroos. This is where faction members who have gone mad from the Grim Retreat are treated. Bleakers escorted here are put in a 10 by 10 room with nothing but a straw pallet. The window is always shuttered and they are locked in by an iron-bound door in complete darkness. They are then left there in a state of transcendent despair with no food or drink until either they cry out their reaffirmation of the Bleaker philosophy and recover, or they die. The Mad Bleaker wing has 280 10 by 10 foot rooms, but it's almost never at capacity, and so Sroos rents out the extra rooms to travelers for 10 gold pieces a day, which seems extremely expensive for a regular inn, let alone a cell with nothing but a straw pallet and no light. The Bleak Cabal are kind to their patients in the gatehouse, but their treatments are unorthodox. Common advice they give to their cases are, give up the illusions of meanings, and accept that which doesn't make sense, and then peace will come. Most people who are admitted to the gatehouse eventually leave fully recovered, but they all refuse to talk about their treatment, saying only that the Bleakers were kind to them.